Back on Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Head to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. Find our page, hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment. Of course, free and available on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify, Odyssey. Download us today, leave us a 5-star review, and of course, give me a follow on my personal Twitter page. That would be at JMCH316. We got strange news yesterday for the Atlanta Falcons. So a guy that they had recently brought in, Eddie Goldman, defensive tackle who had been with the Chicago Bears over the last handful of years, literally just a couple of weeks ago signed a 1-year deal with the Atlanta Falcons on kind of a show-me deal. Now, he spent 7 total years with Chicago, although he only played 6 because he did not play in the COVID year 2019-2020 COVID season, right? He opted out of all of that. And a lot of people were kind of excited because he's a 28-year-old defensive interior lineman. He's a bigger bodied guy, right? He'd be a guy that you'd love to pair with Grady Jarrett. He has had some good moments over his years. Now, his final year where he basically had COVID year that he sat out, and then came back and played one more year, played 14 games and started 10, did not go very well. And it was the worst PFF grade, excuse me, that he had of his career. But again, 1-year deal. He played with, Pace in Chicago. I get it, right? And a guy that they were hoping would kind of help out. And then we got word yesterday that he retired. 28 years old, and he retired from the NFL. Now, again, guys are doing different things now in today's NFL world, right? The money's bigger, the money's more guaranteed. You got bigger money coming out even in your rookie contracts and stuff like that than you would have, let's say, a long time ago. Because again, if you're not the number 1 draft pick, you weren't getting the massive signing bonuses and stuff like that, right? But it was kind of strange that Goldman decided here 2 weeks in. Now, number one, it's good that this is happening now, that you don't get into, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks of training camp and preseason and all these things going on. And then all of a sudden he says, you know what? Football is just really not for me. I want to retire. And he kind of goes the Vic Beasley route, right? Or I hate to say it this way, but his heart's not in it. It becomes Vic Beasley or Ray Edwards or one of those famous signings that the Falcons have had over the years where it just sort of tanks. I'd rather Goldman to make this decision now, a week before training camp is ready to get started, and get that out of the way. But it does leave a hole. and in a spot where there are way more questions than answers for the Atlanta Falcons, this does hurt some. Now, I don't know what Goldman could or can or not be or whatever, right? He played well early in his career. Then he opted out and didn't play. Then he came back and played and did not play very well, at least from a perspective of it was the worst grade that he had. So you're hoping for that bounce back year and all this, that, and the other. But he's at least a guy who fits the mold of here's a big body guy that can play next to Grady and eat up some space and eat up some blockers and maybe potentially free Grady up to do some of the things that we want to see Grady do. Blow up plays in the backfield, maybe get to the quarterback a little bit, right? Now you're back to square one with all of this, right? And now again, you're back to some of your options are the Marlon Davidsons and the Taquan Grahams of the world, and you don't have a lot of good answers. And I brought up a couple of weeks ago here when there were reports about Ndamukong Suh being out there and available. I'll say again, why not make a run at a guy like that? Because you need some defensive line help, right? Now, we'll talk more about this in just a second, but want to talk to you about my friends over at BlueNile.com. BlueNile.com is your specialized jeweler that, look, you're getting engaged over the summertime here, right? Love's in the air. You're meeting that girl of your dreams. You want to propose to her. They've got the Build Your Engagement Ring of her dreams where you can go on. It's an online tool that allows you to customize the shape, size, clarity, setting style, everything for that ring. It's a special, unique, one-of-a-kind ring. Look, if you're just trying to find something for an anniversary, a birthday, just something special for the love of your life, they have experts on hand 24/7 that will help you decide and help you pick those special life moments of using fine jewelry. They've got everything available to you at BlueNile.com. And we've got a deal right now for our Locked On Sports Atlanta listeners. Right now, if you go to BlueNile.com and you put Locked On Sports, put Locked On at the as the checkout code, put Locked On LOCKEDON in the checkout code, $50 off your first, or $50 off anything over $500 or more. So spend $500 or more, you get $50 off just by simply using the code Locked On, LOCKEDON. Use that coupon code at checkout. BlueNile.com. Remember, every order is insured, it ships free, and it's in a discreet package. So don't worry about her figuring out or shake, rattle, and roll in that box and figuring out that she's got a piece of jewelry coming to you. BlueNile.com. Shop stress-free, and it's your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. But, again, when you're talking about the Atlanta Falcons and their defensive line, you're going to have to roll the dice a little bit now. Because, with all due respect, I don't feel very good about the idea of Davidson and Taquan Graham and guys like that. Again, that's not going to help Grady Jarrett out. And you're going to have to go find probably a guy now. Now, look, if it's not Sue, I understand. They have some money available to them. Okay? We've talked before about $13 million, somewhere around there. Now that you got all your rookie class signed. Good to see Desmond Ridder sign his contract yesterday, right? All that good kind of stuff. So you got about $13 million, give or take a little bit here or there. Put a couple bucks aside, just in case of emergency, right, that you need. You've got some money to go out and spend. And I hate to say, but, you almost kind of want to start finding a guy or even think about making a trade. Remember, the Andy Levitre trade for the Falcons, that literally happened getting ready for week 1. When they traded for Andy Levitre, brought him over from, I think it was the Titans at that time, brought him over from the Titans to play interior offensive line for what would end up being the Super Bowl team. That deal was consummated literally like getting ready for week 1 of the regular season, right? So I understand trades can happen and things can happen, but the Falcons have a hole here now. And I don't know if Goldman was going to be a guy who could solve that, but given his track record, he was certainly better than the other options that you have now. And it does seem like now that there is a real pressing need that they need to go out and find some defensive tackle help. They need to go out and find somebody who's a big body that can play beside Grady Jarrett. And I understand that those guys are not growing off trees. And I understand that there's not a million of those guys, running around. And I understand right now the pool is a little bit thin. But this is where your GM is going to make his money, right? And again, I'm not going to get into all the Chicago Bears. This whole idea of bringing in all the former Chicago Bears is already just a disaster in my mind. Again, while we're picking pieces from an organization that is worse than what we are, and their general manager, the only reason their general manager is working here is he's got fired in his last place. And I know he's buddies and all that with Fana, but anyway, like I said, I don't want to get into all that nonsense right now about all of that. But Goldman was at least a guy maybe he thought at least physically could fit the mold of what they want to do. Now you don't have him. So, look, desperate times call for desperate measures. Are the Falcons desperate for defensive line help? I say yes. Here, hand raised. I say yes. Yeah, because their options are not very good. And you didn't sign Grady Jarrett and keep him here and extend him for him to have to go through another season of what he did last year. Now, understand, on the outside, you feel much better. Ebba Katie, Lorenzo Carter, you feel much better about the rotation of guys that you'll have on the outside. And yes, that part will help Grady. But with all due respect, if I'm counting on the Marlon Davidsons and the Taquan Grahams of the world to try to eat up space inside, it's going to be back to here's Grady getting triple teamed. Here's Grady against the Detroit Lions from last year. And he's mic'd up and he's like, wow, you guys send 3 guys after me, huh? And you're watching the video and they're taking 3 guys at a time to block Grady Jarrett. You can't have that. You've got to find a way to get Grady Jarrett productive and back to what he was even just a couple of years ago. And I know a lot of people want to say that his numbers didn't look good last year, this, that, and the other. But when you've got all these slugs around you, inside, outside, this, that, and the other, and you're the only good piece, NFL teams are going to take you away. So desperate times call for some desperate measures out there. Falcons need to figure something out because no matter what Goldman could or could not be, at least he fit the mold physically, and now it leaves a hole on that defensive line. All right, when we come back, the Braves are only the 5th best betting odds to win the World Series? Good value or about where they should be? It's all next. Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked on Sports Atlanta.